Crikey! What a beautiful day it was in the African savannah. The sun was shining bright, the birds were singing their happy songs. A magnificent lion, a true king of the wild, was having a lovely snooze under a big acacia tree. He was just minding his own business, dreaming of a tasty zebra dinner. He probably felt safe and sound, like nothing in the world could bother him. The wind was gently blowing through his glorious mane, and everything was peaceful. What a ripper of a day for a nap. But sometimes, even for a big, tough lion, a perfect day can go wrong in a heartbeat. He had no idea what was coming for him. Suddenly, the peaceful quiet was broken by a loud buzzing sound. It wasn't just one or two bees, it was a massive swarm. Thousands of angry bees came flying out of a hidden hive in the tree. They were furious. The lion woke up with a start, completely surprised. The bees saw the big lion as a threat to their home, and they went straight for him. They swarmed all around his head, his eyes, and his nose. The poor fella didn't know what hit him. One moment, he was sleeping peacefully, and the next, he was in the middle of a full-on bee attack. It was a real nightmare, and it was happening so fast. The lion roared in pain and confusion. He tried to run away, but the bees followed him everywhere. He swatted at them with his huge paws, but there were just too many. They were relentless. Every time he swiped, he just made them angrier. The stings were incredibly painful, especially around his sensitive face. He shook his mighty head back and forth, trying to get them off, but it was no use. The buzzing was deafening, and the stings felt like tiny hot needles poking him all over. This big, powerful predator was completely helpless against these tiny, angry insects. It was a scary sight to see. He ran and ran until he couldn't run anymore. He finally found a small, muddy waterhole and plunged his head into the cool water to escape the bees. It was his only chance. The water gave him some relief, and the bees eventually gave up and flew away. But the damage was done. The poor lion was exhausted and covered in painful stings. His face was swollen, and he could barely see. He was weak and feeling very, very sorry for himself. The king of the savannah was in a bad way, and his terrible day was far from over. He had survived the bees, but a new danger was just beginning. As the days went by, the lion got weaker. The bee stings were just the start of his problems. Because he was so weak, his body couldn't fight off other dangers. A strange and dangerous fungus began to grow on his skin. It started as small bumps, but soon they grew into large, ugly pods. These pods were not just on the surface, they were growing deep into his skin, causing him a lot of pain. The fungus was a nasty parasite, feeding on the lion and making him even sicker. He was in a world of hurt, and he was all alone. It was a double whammy for this poor bloke. The fungal pods were itchy and sore. The lion would scratch and bite at them, trying to get some relief. But this only made things worse. He would break the skin, causing bleeding and making it easier for infections to get in. The pods looked like strange, lumpy growths all over his once beautiful coat. He was no longer the proud king of the savannah. He was a sick, struggling animal, losing his strength every single day. He was too weak to hunt, so he was getting hungry and skinny. It was a heartbreaking sight. This beautiful creature was in a desperate fight for his life. The poor fellow was in constant agony. Imagine having thousands of bee stings and then getting a nasty skin disease on top of that. It would be unbearable. He spent his days hiding in the bushes, trying to rest, but the pain never went away. He was suffering from the bee stings, the fungal infection, and starvation. It was a terrible combination. Other animals could sense his weakness. Hyenas would circle from a distance, waiting for their chance. The king was vulnerable, and the savannah can be a cruel place for the weak. He needed a miracle, and he needed it fast. Every breath was a struggle. His magnificent roar was now just a weak, tired groan. He had lost so much weight that you could see his ribs. The fire in his beautiful golden eyes was starting to fade. He was giving up. The world was becoming a blur of pain and hunger. Without help, this incredible animal would surely die. He had faced the fury of a bee swarm and was now losing a battle against a silent, creeping fungus. It was a tragic situation, A real life or death struggle out here in the wild. But hang on, mate, help was on the way. Luckily, some people who worked nearby heard stories about a very sick lion. They were a team of animal rescuers, absolute legends who dedicate their lives to helping wildlife. As soon as they heard about the lion's trouble, they knew they had to do something. They couldn't just stand by and let this magnificent animal suffer. They looked at photos of the lion with his swollen face and the strange fungal pods, and their hearts went out to him. They decided right then and there to launch a rescue mission. It was a risky job, but for them, saving an animal's life was worth any risk. The team packed their gear immediately. They had a special dart gun with medicine to make the lion sleepy and calm. They also brought a big medical kit filled with everything they would need to treat him. Creams for the stings, tools to remove the fungus, and medicine to fight the infection. They knew it wouldn't be easy. A scared, injured lion is one of the most dangerous animals on the planet, but this team was experienced. They had a plan. They jumped in their 4x4 truck and drove out into the savannah, determined to find the lion and save him. Finding him was the first challenge. The savannah is a huge place. They searched for hours, following tracks and talking to local guides. Finally, one of the team members spotted him through binoculars. There he was, lying under a bush, looking weak and defeated. The team approached very slowly and quietly in their truck. They didn't want to scare him. They could see how bad he looked. His face was still swollen, and the fungal pods were even bigger than in the photos. They knew they had to act fast. Their hearts were pounding, but they stayed calm and focused on the job. The leader of the team got the dart gun ready. This was the most dangerous part. He aimed carefully. He had to get the dose just right, enough to make the lion sleep, but not so much that it would harm him. He took a deep breath and fired the dart. It hit the lion perfectly in his big shoulder muscle. The lion jumped up with a startled roar, but the medicine started to work quickly. Within a few minutes, the mighty king was fast asleep. Now the team could safely get out of the truck and begin their work. The race against time to save his life had begun. With the lion safely asleep, the team rushed into action. They worked quickly and carefully. First, they checked his breathing and his heart rate to make sure he was okay. Then, they got to work on the nasty fungal pods. They used special medical tools to gently scrape and pull the pods off his skin. It was a slow and delicate process. Underneath each pod was sore, red skin. They had to clean every single wound to prevent any more infections from getting in. They applied a powerful antifungal cream all over the affected areas to kill any remaining fungus and help his skin heal. Next, they turned their attention to the old bee stings. Many of the stingers were still stuck in his swollen face. One by one, they used tweezers to carefully remove them. What a job! Then they gently cleaned the swollen areas and applied a soothing cream to reduce the pain and swelling. They also gave him a big shot of antibiotics to fight off any infections inside his body, and another shot of vitamins to help him get his strength back. They were like a team of doctors in an operating room, right there in the middle of the savannah. They gave him everything he needed to start healing. After they finished, they moved away and watched from their truck. They needed to wait for the medicine to wear off so he could wake up safely. After a little while, the lion started to stir. He slowly lifted his head and blinked his eyes. He looked around a bit confused, but you could see he already felt better. The terrible swelling on his face was going down, and the painful pods were gone. He stood up on his big paws, gave himself a good shake, and let out a small, tentative roar. It was a sound of relief. He was on the road to recovery. Over the next few weeks, the team kept an eye on him from a distance. With the fungus gone and his wounds healing, the lion started to hunt again. He got stronger and stronger every day. His beautiful coat grew back, and the fire returned to his eyes. Soon he was back to being the magnificent, powerful king of the savannah. What a beauty! Thanks to that brave rescue team, he got a second chance at life. It just goes to show you that with a little bit of kindness and courage, we can make a real difference for our amazing wildlife. Good on you, team.